and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will move into our consensus agenda.
So I move we approve the vouchers from last month in total of $579,490.45, plus the payroll, which there were three last month, $663,839.28. Brings us to a grand total expenditures between those two of $1,242,797.58. Along with that, the minutes from our last board meeting.
Second.
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Ken. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Patrons' comments.
Now's your opportunity.
Any comments?
Yeah. What did you even say?
Know what just happened.
I don't know what happened so long. I heard a lot of money and then it was over and then it was over. I was giving notes.
All right, so.
This isn't going to be a quick meeting.
I heard that. And I heard 1 million something.
Okay, all right. So we just approved the minutes from last board meeting and then all of the payroll and all of the expenditures from the last month of business. So now it is your time to, if there's any questions, concerns, thoughts, that you can share that.
What did we just pay for? Like, is it like the
So we
like
paid your
basketball
teachers'
stuff?
salaries.
Teachers.
Basketball and
We paid for all the support staff. We paid all of our bills. So food bills,
Debt payments.
other expenditures, I mean,
Water.
and then you pass
$1,242,797.58. A lot.
and that is extremely high this month. But remember I said there were 3 payrolls? Typically there's 2 payrolls. And
And there was
so
also
it's extra payroll.
There was also teacher raises in that and back pay.
Back pay.
So
Because there were 3 Fridays.
No, when you said you had the motion passed, what did you mean? Like,
All-
it was okay?
It was okay. It was approved.
Yes.
We
We
approved
all
it.
agreed. So if one of us wouldn't have agreed, it would have been, say, 4-1.
Okay.
I don't think we've had a 4-1 since I was on the board anyway.
All right, so, I'm sorry. Go.
No, we're good. Any other comments?
Those are good
You
questions.
get another chance to ask all types.
Thank you for asking.
you don't ask.
If you don't understand, ask.
There's no stupid question.
Time to ask questions.
Well, it happened so fast, I was like.
It did. And his,
Try to
that's
stay
always a long
with
one.
us.
It's always a real long motion.
Now the motion passed with how many?
5.
Why does it make sense?
Mr. Riffle does not vote.
He does?
He's not a school board member, so
He's just the.
the other 5 of us.
So here in a moment, I'll,
Nope.
No,
Oh, no.
we are the governing body of the school.
They don't have a name thing in front of them.
Well, that's not right. Give Mr. Riffle
What's
that.
her name thing? Somebody write her one.
so also keeping in mind that this is a public meeting,
Oh, I'm sorry.
okay? It's okay.
All right.
It's okay, but knowing that there's people watching and you guys are the public as well, right? So we're gonna, yeah, that's fine. No, but also just so you are aware as you're taking notes.
It's a.
You're online.
Ryan, do we have any public comments? Nope.
There are none.
Okay. Are you looking to?
Nobody's asking, who is that girl?
All right, we're going to move on to personnel.
All right. I recommend the approval of girls varsity basketball volunteer coaches, Creedon Kroll and Ashley Faulkner.
We approve that. Second.
Moved by Steve, second by Kevin. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
Probably could have lumped these first 3 together. Apologize. So we'll go ahead and recommend the approval of Lindsay Shively as girls basketball assistant coach and Justina Faulkner as the girls junior varsity coach.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Kevin, seconded by Steve. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
I also recommend the approval of Brad Hargrave as the 8th grade basketball volunteer coach, Greg Christian as the 6th grade boys basketball volunteer, Joe White as the 5th grade boys basketball volunteer coach, John Gardner as the 8th grade boys head coach, and we'll go ahead and stop there with the basketball, boys basketball.
I move we approve those.
Second.
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Wes.
Question?
I always forget which Greg Christian this is.
Bart's dad.
Okay.
Good question.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
I recommend the approval of Kim Stetzel as the 5th and 6th grade cheerleading coach.
I move we approve that.
Second.
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Ken. Any discussion?
They did a great job tonight. That group of young
So she's
ladies
coaching
at the 5th grade.
A lot.
A lot of
Yeah.
cheerleaders, okay.
So,
All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
And last but not least, in the personnel items, I'd like to recommend the approval of the sick bank days for Miss Tracy Nicely. And she is requesting 20 of those.
I move we approve that.
Second that.
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Wes. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
Just a quick explanation of the sick bank days. If a teacher does not have enough sick days, if they have to have surgery or they have to be absent for some reason, they can request sick bank days that all teachers each year have the ability to put a sick day into the bank. And so that really is just a kind gesture to say, you know what, if somebody's going through a tough time or that type of thing, that they can utilize those sick days. So that's what that was.
Moving on to business.
All right, I recommend the approval of the second reading and approval of the Corporation Policy Volume 33, Number 2. Just to give a little insight on that, a lot of that is still dealing with Title IX policies and how we would go through the process of that if there were ever a concern. But then also there's a lot of different policies that are also in there. Another one was the Teacher Appreciation Grant, just making sure that we approve that, but just making sure that that's all updated to the latest expectations.
I move that we approve that.
I'll second that.
Moved by Ken, seconded by Steve. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
I recommend the approval of the Trojan Singers fundraiser. That is a Hacienda fundraiser that will take place on December 8th.
Is it this year?
It says 22,
Yeah.
but I have a feeling that is 20. So
Do we know what time that is?
I do not know what time it
Don't
is.
those work, aren't they all day?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think you go to Hacienda and
As long as you
a
present
certain
the-
percentage of your purchase.
Do you have to have
goes-
the little,
Yeah, the car or
This
something.
isn't where they won't be there working. It's not one of those.
No.
oh,
Yeah, it's
I
just,
think they just
Not
give the
singing.
20% off and then they.
like
That'd
you
be
could go
cool
at
though, wouldn't
lunchtime
it?
and it won't matter. You just have to have a little thing.
any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes.
I also recommend
Oh,
the.
wait, we didn't,
Oh, okay.
sorry, never mind, we just talked.
I
Never mind.
move that we
Yeah,
approve
there we
that fundraiser.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I'll second that.
Moved by Wes, seconded by
voted.
Steve. All in favor? Motion passes. We were so excited about Hacienda.
I recommend the approval of the Triton Junior Senior High School and the Triton Elementary School improvement plans that were sent to you guys earlier this week. Those are obviously in full swing. We just did not bring those to the board for approval, which we needed to do. So.
So moved. Second.
The move by Kevin, seconded by Steve. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. On to superintendent report.
All right,
Oh, wait, I thought last time we were gonna have to have the principals,
we can do that.
so he didn't steal your thunder?
I just got a text that
They'll
Mrs.
probably
Cook is
just
en
repeat
route.
it.
Extremely here.
Or you can go last.
I tried my best to keep it high level so I didn't encroach.
Way too fast.
Mrs. Cook is waiting on a parent at the game, so she is running a tad behind.
All right, so for the high school, just some things I want to bring up tonight. First of all, I'll start with right now we have 44 students that are quarantined. So we've seen a little bit of jump in those numbers, so we're just going to knock on wood and cross our fingers. But right now, 44 students. Junior Audit Day, if you guys were not aware of that, we had a Junior Audit Day on October 27th, where we basically our counselors met with every junior in the building, sat down and made sure they were on track for graduation, very similar to what we did with our seniors back in September. And we also invited colleges and had military representatives there. And we hope in the future to grow those events, have more employers come to those as well. We are doing a sophomore audit day on November 22nd, and then a freshman audit day on November 23rd. Again, just making sure that every year we're sitting down with each individual student and making sure that we know their path and that they're on track to graduate. I think that's going to be really important for our kids. We did make a connection at the senior audit day with one employer. Well, we had quite a few employers there, but one of the employers was very impressed with that day and our students. We got a lot of compliment about our students. So the Dilling Group, who's a contractor, not just in our area, but even outside of Indiana, that does a lot of pipe fitting, electrical. I couldn't even tell you what all they do. Anyway, they made the initiative to want to come back and meet individually with kids that were interested. So they're going to come back and do so. I can't remember if it was this week or next week, but they're going to come in, and any student is interested in meeting with them. Those are real potentials for future employment for our students. Good jobs. Albert Hanselman, who's our CTE director, he's going to be coming in and speaking with our sophomores on November 19th, just about the CTE opportunities that we have in our area. And then we're going to be planning those field trips to those different programs in our area coming up here, so that our sophomores get a real early glimpse of what opportunities they have their junior and senior year. If they stay on track for graduation, those are opportunities they have to get out of the building and go and learn a trade and get started into something early on. Let's see here. Senior Squad is having a Christmas party at Autumn Trace on December 2nd. That's something they're putting on for the residents there. We do have, I got to flip to another screen here, I'm sorry. Let's see, next Wednesday, we're working with the Tobacco Coalition. So their coordinator is coming out to talk with our 7th and 8th graders just about vaping, the dangers of vaping. So that's something that we want to make sure we're talking to our kids about. And then also on the first week in December, we have somebody coming out to talk to our 7th and 8th graders about social media, dangers of technology, some of those cybersecurity issues that we need to make our kids aware of. So that'll be happening as well. Let's see here. We started I-STEP testing today. So we started today, and we hope to wrap that up next week at some point. And those are our seniors. The seniors are the last group that are going to be taking the I-STEP for graduation. And then we had SAT testing 2 weeks ago. And then I want to thank the marching band. I think we talked about it at the last board meeting, but just really want to thank our marching band. They had a great season. Hopefully they had a lot of fun, a lot of success. They competed at the semi-state this last Saturday. Didn't turn out the way they wanted it to, but just congratulations to those students. And then the last thing is I just want to point out that on the December 13th school board meeting, I did ask Mr. Young to attend that meeting so he can give you an update about the DC trip. If you have questions at that time, you can bring those to him, and he can give you an update just on where we're at that time. So that's what I have, unless you guys have questions.
Yeah.
That's true. Yes.
Marching band, we
Yes.
got a really good score.
Did it?
Thought we were gonna get
Good.
14th out of 20 first time going.
It's good. It's all right. Great accomplishment. So good job.
Appreciate you saying that.
Okay. I'm going to pass it on here.
Just in time. In time.
All right. Basketball season at the elementary has officially started. So anyway, we had 2 loud games, I think. We were not victorious, but that's okay. It's our first game, so we can only do better. So I guess at the elementary, I would say students continue to come and go. We still have more that come than go. Our numbers are still up from the beginning of the year, trying to help those students make a transition as best we can at these dates. So at this point, we have about 25 students who are quarantined. That's the most that we've had at any one time this year. We've had 3 students total who've tested, or 3 positive cases, I guess, since the beginning of the year. So this is the most that we have. I'd like to really thank Nurse Newman in particularly. She's really done a great job. There are a lot of emails and phone calls and communication both ways, record keeping that goes with doing this. I think we're doing the right thing, but it is a lot of work, and thank her and Nurse Mulligan as well for helping with that. And then for the teachers, obviously, who are dealing with the logistics of that when students are missing out of their classrooms, and then providing for them until they're back. And I really appreciate everything that they are doing there. The week we got back from break, we celebrated Red Ribbon Week and saying no to drugs. Our goal or our theme was to be aware, too smart to start. So I like that theme for the kids, and we just had a few things to help keep them, reminding them about being drug free. We also had Lions Club who donated dictionaries to our 3rd graders and distributed those also last week. And we appreciate our Lions Club for helping with that and giving to our kids, something that I think those kids really do value. This week we will be celebrating Veterans Day program, a virtual program on Thursday, but we will have all the kids in the hallway. First thing at 8:25, we'll be trying to do our version of an assembly that's less than 15 minutes. So, but enough to honor and to salute our veterans, something that's very important. So we'll be doing kind of a hallway assembly at 8:25, and we'll be doing the pledge together, which we don't get to do much as a whole school, and then also singing Proud to be an American. That's what it is. Then we also will be having, as Miss Leah Aldifer has directed, the 4th graders with their salute to veterans, and that will be shared virtually for everybody to watch in their classrooms, and it will be shared publicly as well on Facebook. We will be coming up, we also have our Bodies in Progress in November. That is for our 5th graders and boys and girls, separate presentations. We will also, 5th grade will be starting DARE coming up in December. That's something that we didn't do last year at all, so I'm excited about doing that because it's really important for our kids. And I think that's about it. We'll start our assessments in December. By the time we meet again, we will be starting mid-year assessments so that we can see where our kids are currently, the progress that they've made since August, and where we need to be headed, what we still need to know. And that's going to be really important. Okay? Anything else? Any questions? So actually our ones that are now 7th grade didn't get to finish DARE the year before either, or have their graduation, and that was our intent, except last year our officer was not able to. So that's a good question, whether we want to do some of that with 6th grade. Part of that depends on their availability as well, but I know that was a goal of his last year that didn't get realized because of some health concerns as well. So that's something that could happen.
That's a good question.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
We'll go on to superintendent report and then ask for patrons' comment.
All right. So continuous improvement. Triton School Corporation continues to work through the discovery phase of our strategic plan. Over the last 3 weeks, Megan Dale and Jeremy Prince from InFocus have created surveys to share with our staff, students, and community members, and I've also met with focus groups of students and staff. The first workshop is in the process of being scheduled to take place the first week of December in order to stay on target for our second workshop that will be in January. I guess working towards the finished product, which will be in February, which I think was the original timeline for that to all be done. Data from the original surveys was shared with you guys. Pretty interesting information. Does definitely make you ask some questions, but obviously we'll get to some of those things as we continue to work through that process. So more information will continue to be shared as it is received. Shared leadership. The town of Bourbon recently partnered with Triton School Corporation to create a safer route to school for those coming from the north side of Schaefer Road. We had talked a little bit about that last board meeting, and we were kind of waiting for some of the signage and that to take place, and that has been put in. And I think anybody that has gone through that area, it definitely kind of makes you slow down a little bit because it's pretty tight, which is the intent. So making sure that those 10 students that come from the north side of Schaefer Road have a safe route to school in the mornings. So that's much appreciated. Social responsibility, thanks goes out to Mark Klingerman. You guys approved him to remove our football bleachers last board meeting, and he made some quick work of that. He was out there the Saturday after our last game. So just thank him for his dedicated and speedy work of removing the football bleachers. Last Friday, he finished up getting the pilings out of the home bleachers, which was quite a chore. He thought they were a lot smaller than they were. And so that was, he said it was going to be the death of him, but he did very well and he accomplished the task. He completed his portion of the job last week due to all the rain. A couple weeks ago, the concrete contractor is a little behind, but is scheduled to be on site November 20th. They're saying it's going to take them approximately 10 days to complete all of their tasks. So still definitely on our timeline of December 1st drop ship of the bleachers and begin that process. Hopefully getting really, really close to finishing that up. Probably sounds like most of December they'll be working on that, probably finish that up at the first of the year. I'll be meeting with Tom Bruce, and I will be meeting with Doug Hess on Wednesday from Southern Bleacher to review the placement of the bleachers and just make sure everything is on target for installation. Accountability, talking a little bit more about strategic planning and just giving some updates on how many students and staff and so on took the survey. So 519 students, so that's all but 28 of our students, 5th through 12th grade. That's who we gave those surveys to. Obviously with quarantines and stuff like that going on, likely they did not receive that during their SLC time like most of these guys probably took it. 96 staff members, so that's over 70% response, and I believe that's increased since I last spoke to him last week, but 185 parents, community, or alumni completed the survey as well. So we should have a lot of good feedback from both our students, our staff, and our community. High expectations. I want to once again congratulate the Spirit of Triton Marching Band. They placed 14th at semi-state, as was mentioned. Just so everybody's aware, the top 10 teams actually go to state. So not only did, as Trinity mentioned, they got a really, really good score, but they also were 4 spots away from a state berth, which is pretty awesome. So a lot of adversity. In fact, Trinity was not able to attend after a lot of really, really hard work and just a lot of dedication there. Yeah, you guys did really well, worked really hard, overcame that adversity, and really it's a kind of a microcosm of life, right? So I want to thank you guys for that. Since we last spoke, Jocelyn Faulkner competed in semi-state as well for the cross-country meet, gave her absolute best there. Triton football team completed this weekend in the sectional finals. They faced a very, very good Adams Central team that has a really good opportunity to possibly win a state championship this year. So if you had the opportunity to watch them, they were quite the basketball team. And also, I just want to congratulate Coach Kroll and the Lady Trojan basketball team, who are off to a great start, 2-0 right now. And that's always a great feeling as a brand new coach and just trying to begin to run a program. So thank you for your confidence in that hire. Alignment, we are planning for January 3rd professional development. The focus will be on getting back to the basics, so we'll have a couple presentations, but we'll try to make that as practical and as differentiated as possible for our staff. We did start discussing that back at our June board retreat, if you remember. So a lot of those plans are coming to fruition, and we will continue working through that on January 3rd. I do want to just report out on a couple of the items that Mr. McCann and Mrs. Cook mentioned. High school students, we said we have 44 students quarantined. 23 of those students will be returning tomorrow, have the opportunity to return. So depending on when those things happen, obviously you have smaller windows or longer windows. So 23 of those students are eligible to come back tomorrow. At the elementary, we have 25 students, as Mrs. Cook mentioned. 10 of those have the opportunity to come back tomorrow. Sometimes that's with a negative test and so on. So we continue to have conversations with our health department each week, each Tuesday at 4 o'clock. That's a standing time to continue to work through and talk through ways that we can do that the best we possibly can. I do not, I think for public record, I do not like sending healthy kids home. But I will also tell you, unlike last year, we are seeing spread amongst close contacts. We did not see that at all last year. We have maybe one incident that occurred last year, and this year it has occurred more often. And that just kind of confirms the fact is that it is a little bit more easier spread. So we continue to navigate that day by day. So I want to thank Mr. McCann and Mrs. Cook and as Mrs. Cook mentioned, our nurses for working on that. Also, I want to remind the board, November 16th, Tuesday, November 16th, 5:30 is our ISBA regional meeting that will be taking place at Christo's. So typically we get an update on all the laws and everything that we need to do and hear from their attorneys. So that is November 16th. I believe that's all I have.
Thank you. We will open it up for patrons' comments.
We do want to welcome, looks like Amy Wenger. I'm sorry if I botched that name. She's joining us from Wakarusa tonight. She's reporting on this meeting as the new editor of Heartland News and hopes to meet us all soon. So that is one of the messages we have.
I just have a question about like the voting that you were mentioning earlier. How often does a vote not pass?
You have a good superintendent.
To not pass at all, or just to not pass unanimously?
Unanimously.
So 5-0 is unanimous. You know, if you think about it, for something to be voted on, there has to be a motion, and then a second. Now, a second doesn't necessarily mean you approve it. Typically, if somebody seconds it, they're in favor of it, so there's 2 votes already. So it only takes 1 out of the 3 remaining.
We typically.
It has to be recommended before it gets moved.
These agendas.
Usually we have good recommendations.
We get them ahead of time. So if we have questions, we're asking ahead of time. So I don't remember a vote that didn't pass, but I do remember issues that didn't come that were going to be voted on and were not, because some of us were not satisfied with it. We just said, well, we're going to table this till the next time. We're going to talk about this some more. So
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. There's also a mechanism that we call executive session, that oftentimes if there's a personnel issue that we can't necessarily discuss in this setting, that we can talk those things through kind of behind closed doors to make sure that we're all on the same page. But in the end, really, I feel like it's my responsibility to make sure that the board has the information ahead of time, so we can make sure that we kind of work through those questions and concerns before we get to a public setting, right? Because in the end, we want to make sure there's a united front, but that doesn't necessarily mean we want to strong arm somebody in voting yes to that. So I think a lot of that just comes down, we talk to you guys all the time about communication, right? Can we work through that with communication? And we have to oftentimes work through things with communication and make sure we have those things. I don't want to come to a board meeting and surprise our board with something that's going to be on the agenda that we have not really talked through. Now, new coaches, those type of things, all of those come as a recommendation from our athletic director, or if it's a staff member, Mr. McCann would send that. That's where we may not discuss every one of those things, but in the end, it comes back to trust as well, as to say, you know what, if Mr. McCann says this is the best staff member to put in this seat, then we're going to trust that. And if we have questions about that, for example, the basketball coach conversations. We had questions about those. We talked about those to say what's best for our program moving forward. But all of those things were kind of behind the scenes to say, are we thinking this through? Are we making the best decision for our kids? And so on. So that's a really great question.
Mhm.
So it has a lot of layers to it.
And another important lesson that we've all learned in board training is that, let's say there was a vote and we had somebody that had a dissenting vote. The fact that the board passes it means that all 5 of it do support the decision that was made. So that person who dissented leaves the meeting, they're not gonna voice their opinion about dissenting. They're just gonna say, well, the board voted in favor, and I, as a board member, I now support the decision.
And the decisions we make here are to benefit the students and the staff
Board training.
of the corporation.
Well, you just had a lesson tonight.
I learned something too. We've all had board training, apparently.
Any other questions?
Oh, like I was just wondering if you guys are like the last vote for like everything. Like you guys, everything comes to you guys and then.
Well, the ultimate last vote comes in November on the election.
Yeah.
We can all be voted out of our jobs.
That's true.
Yeah. But they are tasked, like I am tasked to recommend what I feel is best for the corporation based on my conversations with Mr. McCann and Mrs. Cook and our coaches or our athletic director and those type of things to make those recommendations that are in the best interest of our school corporation. And if somebody feels that that's not the case, then I better have a really good explanation of why that is.
Ryan, did you have a comment?
Is the pylon in the new crosswalk, is that movable by the public if a wide load needs to get through there?
Yes. They are not attached to the blacktop. That was an option, but they are actually on weights. And they can be twisted off and on based on weather or set wide load.
You mean the ones on Schaefer Road?
Yes.
Will that be
Well, how
there?
about for snowplow?
Yeah, yeah. So we may have to make some adjustments.
Is that gonna be there year round or just school year?
School year. They can remove that obviously easily because it's not.
I know.
We had the
I
option.
noticed
of
it's still there
putting it
during the weekends and everything. It doesn't bother me at all, but
Yeah.
it's probably better that it's
Yeah,
just there.
snowplow probably would
Yeah,
not.
the
fit.
snowplow would probably wipe
That's
it right
gonna be
out.
That's probably a good point. We've never had those, so
Yeah, I don't
now
think
that we have
anybody's gonna get out
snow
there with a
scheduled here
shovel
in
and go.
a week, so that's a good question.
All right, any other questions?
Anything for safety.
No other questions? Yeah.
So you guys like discuss everything beforehand and then you kind of just agree when you're in front of the camera? No, I'm just curious, I don't mean like generally you guys just discuss it and then.
We do not discuss everything in advance. As Jeremy mentioned, if it's a personnel matter and we feel like there needs to be some discussion, that's the purpose of an executive session.
So to your question, Trinity, so when I say discuss, technically, we are not allowed to meet all of us as a quorum outside of this meeting, right? Now, living in a small town, we may see each other at a football game or a band concert or something like that. But technically, when we're together outside of this public setting, we are not to talk business as it relates to the school, right?
You say you do it privately,
So to that point, so the next thing I wanted to let you know is each week I try to send out, sometimes twice a week, this week, because of some of the things that happen in our community, maybe even more, of just, hey, these are some of the things that are happening at the school. These are how we dealt with that. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. But in that setting of an email, typically, I'm not going to meet with all 5 board members. I may have 1 or 2 that ask a question based on that information that I share with them. Okay? But then when we say the discussion, Mrs. Baker actually sends out a board packet to our board that has all of these things, all the way down to the finances that you were asking about. Literally an item by item list of all the things that we spent money on this month. Right? So when we say we discuss those items, it may not be verbally, but in the end, we have access to all of that information and we can ask questions on that. That make sense? So by the time...
You just talk one-on-one in certain.
Yeah. But I mean, technically, these need to be public meetings. So by the time we come to a public meeting, to your point, is we need to have gathered that information, or I need to have shared that information so we can then make a motion and a vote on that. So I don't want to say,
I understand your.
yeah, it's available. It's available.
We would, like last Wednesday, we got our board packet, we would have went through it. And if I would have had any questions that would have been concern to me, I would have reached out to Mr. Riffle and I would have said, you know, why did you pick such an, you know, why did Mr. McCann recommend such and such?
How
And
come you don't do that during this meeting? There's a discussion.
if it's personnel,
If it,
We're not allowed.
we're not allowed.
like personal, like.
No, not like
Personnel, like
personnel.
People.
Personnel,
People.
not personal.
Right.
Teachers.
Teachers, staff, anyone who,
What's the discussion part that you talk about it beforehand? Sorry, I'm not.
The discussion.
no, you're okay.
What do you mean the discussion part of it?
Like when you say, is there any further discussion, but
Oh.
if you've already
Oh.
asked your questions, then what's the point of the discussion?
Well, like tonight, we had
The
questions.
question I have
Yeah.
is, well, who's Greg Christian?
Yeah.
Because I know more than one Greg Christian, so that's a legitimate
Just-
question.
Yeah, just clarification maybe. Or sometimes we'll say, that was a great choice, or that, like, sometimes when people retire, you know, the years of service that they've given, like, if it would have been a teacher that I would have had, you know, and I would have said, you know, that was a teacher I loved, you know, those are the things that we say for discussion sometimes. Not necessarily that we didn't agree with anything, it was just that.
And there are sometimes discussion becomes clarification. Like, can you clarify? So 2 board meetings ago, something slipped by us, or slipped by me, excuse me, when it came to how we were approving that on the agenda. So it made the agenda. I did not see that correctly, and in the end, we had to say, you know what, that was on the agenda by mistake. So that would have been a discussion that, you know, had to apologize, right? So, yeah.
I noticed you were writing when you guys were voting. Do you have to keep a record of like who motions it and who seconds it?
Miss Anita does that for us. And I just kind of make notes because every once in a while Tom will do it and he's,
And then she
Been
types up
asked.
the minutes, and then we approve the
Yeah,
minutes
no-
next month.
Minutes that we
yeah.
approve.
So,
So you guys' questions?
Your questions are all in these minutes. You're keeping her heart.
Not
hard at
verbatim,
work
but
over
it'll
here.
say,
That's the one way of saying it, questions really equal money.
I think that's with town halls. I'm trying to get all the
yeah,
information.
yeah. So those would be the minutes that we approved at the very beginning. So next month, we will approve the minutes that you guys just witnessed,
Okay.
right?
The minutes are also published on the school website. So if you guys ever want to look at previous board minutes, you can refer to the school website and pull them up from like the October board meeting. That will be published. It's public knowledge.
Sounds like a good assignment. Go find the minutes where there was a dissenting vote the last time.
Don't get it.
yeah, made it go back that far.
There are times when we have to go back in those minutes.
I remember the one.
Mrs. Haynes is awesome at that, kind of remembering when those things took place and go back and try to find those.
That's the last one I remember.
Can you say, okay, these minutes didn't count towards our pay? Can you theoretically do that?
Towards pay?
Well, like the minutes, like the minutes are. Could you say that these minutes were not necessary, that you shouldn't have to spend a lot of hours?
No.
You only get paid for the minutes?
No. That's why I was asking, I wasn't sure how we get paid by the hour. So,
We get paid by the hour, we better start making these last longer.
There's an old saying, hours are wasted so minutes can be taken.
there you go.
That's a good quote right there.
Any other questions?
What's
Go
the
ahead.
average amount of minutes you guys spend? You know, when you don't have a bunch of teenagers asking questions.
You're talking about how long are the meetings?
Yeah.
That's different than taking minutes.
Yeah.
Oh. Then
Meeting is minutes or no 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Are the official written record of what the board members are doing. And I can tell you, I've been here for 34 years, and in all that time, I have came to the majority of the school board meetings, and I think maybe once or twice we had a motion that failed. So, they're usually
She just gave you extra credit.
pretty good.
How many years?
A long time. It was shortly after the wheel was invented.
She's only 29 years old though, so she'll figure that out. She's been here 30 years.
Did that answer your question?
I think so.
Okay. Any other questions?
Those are good questions.
All good questions.
You guys have been a good group.
You have been.
Usually the group just sits there and nobody wants to say anything. So, thank you.
Any other questions?
There's a question here, will it be state testing this year? So I'm not exactly sure the context of that, but Mr. McCann and Mrs. Cook did mention this.
Right now, we are currently doing ISTEP testing. That's for our seniors. There's been a change at the high school level at that graduation exam. They're moving away from ISTEP and they're changing it to the SAT. So that's going to be a change we see at the high school level. So that has now become the new graduation exam. They will take that SAT during their junior year.
Yeah.
Is it easier than it used to be? I'm just kidding.
No, it's not.
Then I have a question about that.
Yeah.
So, because a lot of colleges make it SAT optional, so the state's saying pretty much you need to take it now.
Yeah, so some schools have a focus more on the ACT versus the SAT.
Okay.
But the state requirement is the SAT. They can still take the ACT, depending on the college they want to go to. So that's the change at the high school. We still plan on doing the iLearn testing, grades 3 through 8 this year, so that has not changed.
I will tell you, based on that information, I guess none of this was planned, but Mr. McCann and I did have an opportunity to listen to Katie Jenner last Thursday, and she was very open and honest about the fact is that she does not like the fact that one test identifies if we're effective. Now, what will come of that? I think a lot of people have said that over the last several years, and we still continue to take that assessment because of federal accountability and state accountability. But to that point, what Mr. McCann was also explaining gets even more granular when we talk about graduation pathways, right? So there's multiple ways to graduate, whether that's CTE classes, whether that's taking the ASVAB, which is like the military assessment, or the SAT test. So a lot of that is worked out through our counselors, which is why these audit days are extremely important to make sure kids have the right credits and are set up to graduate and for a successful launch to life.
So this Wednesday, our counselors are going to do our staff meeting for our staff at the junior senior high school. And that's what they're going to talk about is what does graduation now look like for our kids. So that might be something that would be good to bring to this group and to share some of those changes. So if that's something you guys would like to do in the future, let me know.
Kind of in between.
Yes.
Kind of in the in-between of taking a test and being done versus pathway.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not you pass this testing, or that is one of the options.
I was gonna ask, like, how you guys are doing that, like, how, since, you know, our senior classes, you know, still doing the ISTEP, which honestly, I'm on the same boat, to where, like, one test is not, or should not, like, plan your entire life for you, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So, like, I was wondering, like, how you were gonna set that up, because I have all younger siblings, like, how you gonna set that up for them when they come out?
Yeah, so Vincent, for example, will be full-fledged. They will figure out what pathway is best for him, whether that's a CTE concentrator, or he will take career and technical education classes, or if he's college-bound, and then he will be taking the ACT. SAT. Will that change in between now and then? Who knows? But in the end, right now, it sounds like that's the path in which we're going. So if somebody's going to the military, they would take the ASVAB, which is kind of a military placement assessment, to figure out what their best placement would be in the military.
How would you adapt to somebody that, like, needs to
Well, I think.
How would you handle it if they end up changing their mind, like, in their junior year? Like, would you try to switch them on a different path?
Yeah, so a big piece of that is the classes that you're taking and making sure that you're passing those classes, right? So do you have a plan, Mr. McCann, as far as if somebody would change their mind?
Here you go in and you're thinking, this is what I want to do.
What if, like, you're, like, freshman, sophomore year, you plan on doing this one thing, and then junior year, you're like, you know what, I'm not really into this anymore. How would you handle that? Like,
most likely, well, to check off the box for graduation, you can take a test, or you can be a concentrator in a pathway. So I mean, you can have a pathway. You're gonna likely start working towards that pathway maybe freshman, sophomore year, but the meat of that's probably gonna happen junior, maybe even senior year. So there is opportunity to make changes, but at the same time, you and your counselor are gonna have a lot of conversation. That's why I really like these audit days we're doing every year, so that you and your counselor really know each other well. You can have a lot of those conversations, and you can adjust, but at the same time, we gotta get you to graduation. So there is a point where, you know, we at least need to check this box, but we also have a lot of opportunity for students to try different things, to rule out something, or to find something that they really enjoy. So I think you're gonna see a lot of opportunity.
Right, and that's just out of concern for my younger siblings, you know, obviously I'm not gonna be in this next year, so like, no, I wanna know that they have,
Yeah.
you know, the right
Opportunities are gonna be, there's gonna be more opportunities to graduate than you've had. So when you look at the system is better, especially for those that would say college isn't for everybody, right? And so the state has shifted on that. I would say our corporation has shifted on that. And education, period, in our state has shifted on the fact is that, you know what? Not every kid is college bound. They may be going straight into the workforce. They may want to get a certificate that says it's a high wage, high demand job, and they're going to be straight into the workforce, and that's going to be a really great thing for them. So there will be more opportunity compared to maybe what you had because of the graduation pathway. I think that's a great question. So,
More questions back here?
Trinity had her hand up
Yeah,
again.
Trinity had her hand up.
I wasn't, with the whole thing, so if I'm getting, you're saying with the SAT they have to do it, or you're taking different pathways?
that is an
besides
option.
just
That is a graduation
so you
option.
actually like the I-STEP, we're not doing it
So-
anymore, so you don't have to.
So
you're
every
choosing
student
to-
has to take the SAT. But if you don't pass the SAT,
There's different ways to get
you
past
can
it.
still check that graduation box off in other ways.
Okay, so it's
But you
just
do
opening
have
it
to
up
take
for
it.
students who aren't like, for me, I hate tests, I suck at them. So it's like opening it up for students that suck at them to do different things.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool, I like that.
Who would you talk to
I
to get
passed
an
that.
ASVAB?
That would be, yeah.
I would start with the counselors.
Okay.
Yeah, but we work
I
really
heard
closely
about
with.
that from my recruiter, that they had the ASVAB here.
Yes.
Okay.
And that is something that's shifted since some of our kids is we're doing those assessments on site. It used to be back in the day when Mr. McCann and I took a test, we had to go somewhere and take the test on a Saturday to where now we actually offer that on site. So that's a really good thing.
Any other questions?
No, but I like that you talk so much that you get people thinking more. You say so many words at once that it makes you actually think and agree with you. And now I ask a question.
All right.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you guys.
We're going to move to adjourn if everyone's in agreement at 7:48.